The Better Business Analysis Institute
presents the Better Business Analysis podcast with
Benjamin Walsh. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Benjamin Walsh, your host here at the Better Business Analysis podcast. And today we have a topic on BA Bites, which is 10 ways business analysts can embrace sustainable and ethical business thinking. That's right. We are going to explore why this is important in 2024. BAs need to be able to embrace ethical thinking as well as sustainable thinking. These principles are desired by customers and need to be incorporated into both our products, our solutions, and the way that we think. So let's jump straight in. Number one is around stakeholder analysis with an ethical lens. As business analysts, we've always done stakeholder analysis, but have we really considered the broader ethical impacts? Today, it's not just about identifying who's involved in a project, but also about how they're impacted. We need to think beyond the business and customers. We need to consider employees, communities, and even the environment as stakeholders. This means looking at the potential social harm or unintended consequences from a decision. Tools like stakeholder impact matrices can help visualize how different groups are affected and ensures that we're considering all angles of ethical responsibility. So tangibly, you can expand that out and have environment, customers, and employees when you're thinking about who's affected by that. Really, really important, especially trying to retain great employees. And also if there are goals as a company around supporting environmental sustainability, which 99% of companies have now, they are stakeholders. Number two, specific environmental impact assessment. So we can conduct environmental impact assessments. So businesses are being judged not just by profits, but by their environmental footprint. As a BA, you could introduce tools like life cycle analysis, LCA, to measure the environmental impact of products from resource extraction to disposal. This analysis helps in proposing more eco-friendly alternatives in product designs or business processes. And this could be the difference between one company and another. This could be your unique value proposition. In New Zealand, there's a company that's now growing called Kygo, and they measure, for example, the ethical positions of different services. And through your bank records, they can actually tell you how much you're spending on ethical companies or giving to ethical companies versus alternatives. And so, for example, if I could say to you that power company A is actually better for the environment and certified as such than energy company B, but I can get the same product at the same price, that could be the differentiator. So that's really important. Number three is around social and ethical risk assessment. Every decision carries risk. And today, that includes ethical risks. Conducting social and ethical risks assessments are actually critical. And this is where we identify potential issues like poor labor practices, unfair wages, misuse of personal information. The key here is using frameworks that align with global ethical standards, right? Like from the UN, they've got sustainable development goals, and ensuring that our business processes uphold human rights and environmental protection. So if you're in a project which is outsourcing to a third world country, which, you know, a lot of us have been involved in, then it is our responsibility that those people are being paid well and that the labor practices of those individuals are the same as what you would expect from employees in this country. That's what people expect. And you'll see like Apple got in huge trouble when they outsourced to one provider in China, and the labor conditions were terrible. And, it forced Apple to have much more of an influence over their suppliers. So it can expand from just your company to your network of deliveries or delivering partners. Number 4 is sustainability in KPIs. And this is where I've experienced sustainability coming in from an executive decision. KPIs, those important metrics that guide our decision making, need to also reflect sustainability goals. And that's usually come from business services or maybe even HR or change or culture team. So it might be things like reducing energy consumption, cutting down on waste. All of those things are now actually KPIs or KRIs for the company and KPIs to different areas. And so we're not just focused on measuring profit, but also measuring environmental and social impacts. And you can create a balanced scorecard, which BAs know about, which integrates social, environmental factors, employee happiness, and financial aspects, right? So maybe it's not still only a small percentage of maybe the decision making, but it's definitely becoming important. That including, maybe gender rights, the rights of different cultures, but primarily, I would say environmental and fairness are pretty standard. Number 5, which we've touched on, is supply chain analysis for sustainability. So it's about thinking about where your company's materials come from. So you can conduct a sustainable supply chain analysis that helps businesses minimize their environmental footprint. This can be about where you're sourcing your goods and making sure that suppliers meet ethical standards. Again, Apple have been forced to do this. So whether that's fair labor practices or reducing carbon emissions, which is another side of CNET, by, maybe sourcing locally or incorporating that CO2 emissions in the cost of delivery, it's actually really important. So you can do supply chain environmental analysis. And I have to say that some procurement, especially government procurement, but lots of other procurement departments will ask you about this. Or they'll ask, when you apply to a tender, they'll ask, where are you sourcing from or what are your environmental standards? And it can be the matter of getting a tender over someone else, again, when it comes down to comparing apples with apples. Number 6 is interesting, which is around circular economy thinking. So it's the concept of a circular economy, and it's a game changer really for sustainability. If you talk to anyone in the space, a lot of sustainability GMs these days. So it's around, rather than creating products with the kind of use and dispose mentality, business analysts can push for solution designers to reuse, recycle, and upcycle. So this is really important, and BAs do play a part in here. This approach doesn't just reduce waste, but also turns waste into a resource. So some of that's really clever. Some companies can use the waste. Some companies have been doing this for years, actually, just from a profit point of view. They use the kind of off product or the product that you usually dispose, and they provide it and supply it to someone else to use it for another purpose. So imagine if you're analyzing the life cycle of a product, you could be proposing ways in which it's part of a cycle loop, reducing long-term costs and actually environmental impacts by providing those kind of, if you like, waste, what you consider waste in your solution is someone else's gold. Number 7, and we've touched on this topic, but this is with the ethical in front of it, and that's ethical AI and data governance. Okay, we need to be careful here. I love AI, but in the age of AI, data governance and ethic are more critical than ever. People are getting freaked out about this topic, and in order for us to be able to really embrace AI, we do need to do it right. Business analysts play a key role in ensuring that algorithms used are transparent, unbiased, and ethical. Whether you're working with machine learning modules or analyzing big data, ensuring privacy and responsible usage needs to be top of mind, and they probably should be in your non-functional list of requirements. This means developing frameworks to check for bias in the algorithms and ensuring that data we use complies with ethical standards. These should be in your non-functionals, and you should make them explicit, okay? Especially if, for example, you're picking up a large language model that may even have been, say, made in another country. It may not suit your ethical or cultural makeup in your country. So you have to go above and beyond, okay? And some people think that's silly, but no, it isn't. I mean, it's just like adding te reo in New Zealand, for example, which is the natural first language of New Zealanders, for the Māori people, into your application if it's targeting a wider population. Okay, it's just about thinking about the world and supporting our fellow people. Number 8 is about compliance and regulatory alignment. So regulations around sustainability and ethics are growing, actually, especially in the EU. In many markets, adhering to regulations like the EU Green Deal is actually non-negotiable. So as a business analyst, you need to ensure that you are proposing solutions that are compliant. So you might be surprised that things aren't compliant, and also that there might be legislation coming through. So you need to monitor that. Compliance isn't just about ticking a box. It's a strategic move that ensures your business is future-proofed and ethically sound. Sometimes it's not just enough to say we've done the tick, it's also to prove and promote. This can generate, like I said, your unique value proposition. It can generate profits and trust with your customers. So this is all good for business. Number 9 is around design thinking, which we've talked about, but with an ethical perspective. So we talk about empathy a lot, but not ethics. So design thinking, it's often about creativity and problem solving, but we need to explicitly add an ethical twist. When brainstorming solutions, include discussions on the ethical impact on those design choices. I'll give you an example. So my grandmother, she's actually 106 years old, and she's still going strong. But when she was in her 90s, she's very much one to put up for rights, and she's a very ethical, moral woman. And she actually wrote a letter, if you like, to a local supermarket because she couldn't access goods that were on a high shelf because she's shorter, things that were really essential for her. They weren't like the luxury goods at the supermarket. So she always had to ask. And so she just asked the question about when designing the shelves, maybe it's worth considering the average height and the elderly. So that's a really good example. You can get cross-discipline teams involved and think beyond profit. Consider how your solutions affect people and the planet. This is actually true design thinking, great design. If you watch any design show, they think about the height of the person sitting on the seats, so the tables need to be at a certain height, all the rest of it. You're designing for people that might be in wheelchairs or have got accessibility issues. Well, you're not going to, jam things into the room. You're going to give them space so they can get around. So you need to ensure that products that you propose are not just innovative, but are also responsible. And finally, number 10, it's all about transparency. Transparency, and you could say reporting. Transparency and reporting. In today's world, consumers and stakeholders and employees expect businesses to be upfront about their ethical practices. No, it's just straight up like the veil of companies just getting away with crazy things is just not happening in 2024. People are watching you. Business analysts should advocate for transparent reporting frameworks, right? They should look at certifications and standards. They should report on sustainability efforts. And, that no one cares. Well, sorry. People will care more that you're honest than if you're hiding. Okay, so even if you're not reaching targets, you can always say, this is our goal and we're getting there. Being transparent is not about ticking a box, as we said before, but it's about building trust with your stakeholders and with your customers. So there we have it, 10 ways business analysts can embrace sustainable and ethical business thinking. Whether it's through stakeholder analysis, environmental assessments, promoting transparency. We have the power to influence how organizations navigate the future. Sustainability and ethical thinking isn't just a trend, it's become central to how businesses operate and stay competitive in an increasingly conscious world. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I'll see you next week.